The night settled over the abandoned village like a heavy blanket, muting every sound and swallowing the last traces of daylight until only the faint outline of crooked rooftops remained against the sky. The air was cold, dense, unnaturally still, as if the wind refused to enter this place. The buildings stood in uneven rows, their wood darkened with age, windows clouded with grime, doors slightly ajar as though expecting someone to return. The ground was dust and brittle grass, crunching softly beneath each step. No animals stirred, no leaves rustled. It felt like the world had forgotten this place, but something within it had not forgotten the world. At the center of the village stood an old well made of stone, worn smooth by years of touch. The edge was damp. The air around it was colder than the rest of the village, the kind of cold that seeped into the lungs and lingered. The sky above was starless, an infinite stretch of black that absorbed all light. The ground sloped downward as if the village itself had sunken over time, pulling everything toward the well. Each step closer to it felt heavier, slower, as though the earth resisted movement. The silence deepened until even heart-beaten breath felt intrusive. A faint sound broke the stillness, a distant creak, like old wood shifting under unseen weight. The houses loomed on either side, their doorways dark and empty like gaping mouths. The well seemed to hum, almost imperceptibly, like something deep below was stirring. The air tasted metallic. A thin layer of mist began to spread across the ground, curling around ankles like fingers. The village felt alive, watching, waiting. The moment fingertips touched the stone of the well, the ground trembled. A cold pulse radiated outward, rippling through the earth. The mist thickened, swirling upward. The world tilted. The houses around the square stretched, twisting slightly, their angles unnatural. The sky wavered as though made of liquid. Something was waking beneath the surface. A vibration climbed through the stone into bone. The air thinned, making each breath shallow. The mist climbed higher, wrapping around shoulders like a cloak. The edges of the village darkened further, swallowing the buildings whole until only the well and the immediate ground remained. The trembling intensified, rhythmic like a heartbeat. Then everything stopped. The mist froze in midair. The air held its breath. The silence screamed. The ground gave way. Darkness erupted upward, swallowing light, sound, and gravity in a single breath. The village vanished. The cold deepened. The world inverted. There was no falling, no rising, just motion without direction. The darkness pressed close, thick and suffocating, until it felt like drowning in ink. Then, without warning, light. Not warm or natural, but sterile and blinding. A smooth white ceiling, walls seamless and perfect, a floor polished like glass reflecting the ceiling above. The air smelled of disinfectant. It was silent, but not empty. A low hum vibrated through the floor, steady and mechanical. The ground felt too solid, too flawless. The space stretched into a long corridor, impossibly straight and impossibly clean. No dust, no marks, no doors or windows, just an endless hallway illuminated by recessed lights in the ceiling. The humming sound pulsed softly, almost like breathing. Each step echoed far longer than it should, bouncing off the walls with a delay, as though time itself stretched inside the sound. The corridor felt familiar, like a memory or a dream, though it had never been seen before. The air was heavy with the scent of bleach. The lights overhead glowed without flickering, but they were too bright, erasing shadows and depth, making everything feel unreal. The corridor curved slightly, though the curve was so gentle it almost seemed imagined. With each step, the temperature shifted, warm, then cold, then warm again, like walking through invisible currents. The humming grew louder. The walls vibrated faintly. The corridor widened. At the end stood a door, the first door in the entire space. Smooth, white, seamless with the wall. It had no handle. The humming paused. Silence returned, vast and crushing. The door slid open soundlessly. Beyond, darkness. Thick, heavy, absolute. The corridor behind felt wrong now. Too exposed, too bright. The darkness ahead felt like a hiding place. One step forward. The air changed, cold and damp, smelling faintly of soil and stone. The darkness wrapped around like velvet. Another step. The floor shifted from smooth tile to rough dirt. The humming faded completely. The darkness receded. A forest emerged, bathed in pale moonlight. Trees towered overhead, branches twisting like skeletal arms. The ground was uneven and damp. Leaves crunched underfoot. The wind whispered, low and mournful. The forest felt endless, but more real than the corridor, more alive. The moon hung low in the sky, too large, too still. The trees leaned inward, forming a tunnel of branches. The path ahead was faint, winding between roots and rocks. The silence in the village was heavy and dead. Here the silence was watchful. Eyes lingered in the shadows. Shapes shifted behind trunks. The air vibrated with anticipation. The forest pulled forward, just like the corridor had. The path narrowed. The trees grew denser, pressing in on all sides until the branches overhead tangled so tightly that the moonlight vanished. Darkness swallowed everything again. But this darkness felt different, natural, earthy, honest. The air was cold enough to sting. Breath floated in misty puffs. Each exhale disappeared too quickly, devoured by the dark. The ground sloped downward. The path dropped into a shallow ravine. Water trickled somewhere ahead. The sound was comforting in its normalcy, the first true sound in what felt like ages. The path leveled out. The moonlight returned, washing the forest in pale silver. Ahead, partially hidden between roots, stood a door. A simple wooden door, upright against nothing, frame buried in the earth as if it had grown there. It was old, weathered, its surface scarred by time. No walls, no house, just a door in the middle of the forest. The wood pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. The air around it vibrated, distorting the moonlight. The forest held its breath again. The path led directly to it, as though nothing else existed. The door was wrong, impossible, but so was everything else. The handle was cold, the ground trembled, the heartbeat sound quickened, matching pulse. The air thickened. The door opened. Inside, only darkness. The forest vanished, the corridor returned. White, endless, humming. Waiting. The door behind closed silently. Ahead, farther down the corridor, something moved, just out of sight. The lights flickered, the hum deepened, the air tightened again. The loop began to close. And somewhere, faintly, something whispered without words, forward. Always forward.
The corridor stretched ahead, sterile and endless, each step echoing too loudly as if the walls were listening. The hum beneath the floor pulsed in slow waves, vibrating through bones, steady and hypnotic. The lights overhead glowed with an unnatural whiteness, erasing all sense of time. The hallway curved slightly to the left, then straightened again, repeating in a subtle rhythm that made direction meaningless. The air tasted of static. The temperature wavered between cold and warm in unsettling intervals, like passing through invisible thresholds. The silence between each hum felt deeper than soundlessness, alive and watchful. The corridor widened without warning into a vast room, perfectly square. The floor shimmered like water even though it was solid. The ceiling stretched higher than the corridor, vanishing into white haze. At the center of the room sat a chair, plain, wooden, completely out of place in the sterile world. The wood was dark, worn smooth by countless hands. It faced away. The air tightened, heavy with anticipation. The hum faded. Silence pressed in. Each step toward the chair felt heavier than the last. The walls seemed to lean inward, the ceiling lowering, the space shrinking. The chair remained motionless. The moment it was close enough to touch, the hum returned abruptly, louder than before, rattling the floor. The chair creaked quietly. It turned on its own, slow and deliberate, until it faced forward. It was empty. But the indentation on the seat was fresh, as though someone had just risen. The air behind shimmered. The room brightened slightly. The chair faced directly toward a wall that hadn't been there before, a tall, seamless door with no handle, no hinges, only a faint outline carved into the wall. The hum paused. The door slid open. Beyond it lay darkness, not the warm, natural darkness of night, but a void that devoured light entirely. The cold within it spilled out like fog, wrapping around skin. The floor beyond felt different, softer, uneven, almost like earth. Another step forward, the darkness thinned, moonlight returned, pale and cold. The forest stretched ahead once more, but this time it was different. The trees were taller, the branches heavier, the path was narrower.
The moon hung lower, casting elongated shadows that swayed like living things. The forest felt hungrier. The wind whistled through the branches, low and hollow like breath. The ground squelched underfoot, damp and cold. The scent of soil and decay filled the air, sharp and sweet. The silence here wasn't empty, but full of watching eyes, hidden movements, quiet breaths that didn't belong to the forest. The path twisted deeper into the trees. The moonlight faded. The shadows thickened until they merged into a single mass. The forest squeezed inward, branches brushing against shoulders like fingers. The ground sloped downward, steeper than before. The path dropped abruptly into a narrow ravine. Water glistened at the bottom, a thin stream trickling over black stones. The sound echoed unnaturally, repeating endlessly even after the water passed. The ravine walls towered high, lined with roots that writhed subtly. The air grew colder still. Breath emerged in thick clouds. The stream led deeper into the ravine, guiding every step. The walls narrowed. The sky vanished. The world was reduced to stone, water, breath, and heartbeat. The path widened into a cave entrance. The stone arch above the opening was carved with symbols worn nearly smooth. The cave exhaled cold air, damp and heavy, carrying the scent of old earth and something older. The moment inside, the darkness swallowed everything. The sound of dripping water echoed off unseen walls. The floor was uneven and slick. Each step was careful, measured. The air felt thicker, heavier, pressing inward from all directions. The cave twisted like a maze, turning without pattern. The darkness pulsed in rhythm with the hum in the corridor, though the corridor was far away. Or perhaps it was here. The cave narrowed until shoulders brushed stone on both sides. The ceiling lowered. The floor dropped. Breath quickened. The air thinned. The walls pulsed gently, like veins. The cave opened suddenly into a vast chamber. At the center stood a door. The same wooden door from the forest, exact in every detail. It stood upright on stone, frame buried in the floor. Its surface glistened slightly in the cave's moisture. The wood pulsed, a slow heartbeat. The cave fell silent. Even the dripping water stopped. The door was impossible. It did not belong here, yet it waited as if it had always been meant to be found. The handle was cold. The wood trembled. The cave held its breath. The door opened. Blinding white. The corridor again. Endless. Silent. Humming. The door closed behind without a sound. The hum deepened, steady and rhythmic. The air warmed. The corridor had stretched longer than before. The lights brightened. The walls narrowed slightly. The world felt more confined, more deliberate. The floor vibrated steadily, as though the entire structure shifted with each breath. A mirror appeared on the right wall, tall and seamless. The reflection was perfect. Too perfect. The corridor in the glass was brighter, cleaner, slightly distorted. The reflection lingered a moment longer than reality. Something moved in the mirror, just a flicker. Far down the hall, a shape, a shadow. The lights overhead dimmed for a fraction of a second. When they brightened again, the mirror was gone. The corridor split into 3 paths, each identical, each silent, each humming. The left path curved gently. The middle path remained straight. The right path sloped downward. Choice felt meaningless. Forward was the only direction. The middle path, the floor beneath felt softer, as though layers of air separated it from something below. The hum rose in pitch, vibrating deeper in the chest. The lights flickered again. Shadows crawled along the walls, slow and fluid. The corridor felt alive. The floor dipped slightly. The hums shifted rhythm like breathing. The walls contracted inward almost imperceptibly. The lights flickered longer this time. When they returned, the floor ahead was gone. Only darkness remained. A vast, empty drop. The hum stopped. Silence rushed in, absolute and deafening. The space beyond felt endless. The air here was freezing, stabbing lungs with each breath. The corridor behind felt unstable, ready to collapse. The abyss ahead was the only path. One step forward. Weightlessness. Falling, not down, but through. Through darkness, through silence, through time. The void stretched infinite in every direction. The hum returned faintly, as if echoing from miles away. The air shimmered. The darkness bent. Light burst through like shattering glass. A village appeared, old, abandoned, silent. At its center, an ancient stone well. The air was cold, the sky starless. The ground sloped inward, pulling everything toward the well. Mist crept along the earth, curling around feet. The silence deepened until it felt identical to the first moment. The cycle tightened, and somewhere, deep beneath the earth, something waited. Awake now, watching, ready for the loop to begin again.
The village returned, but it was not the same. The well stood at its center, stone cold and dark, yet the air around it burned with an invisible heat. Mist crawled across the ground, thicker this time, curling up like smoke from unseen fires. The houses leaned inward, as if watching, waiting, their windows black, hollow eyes staring. Every step toward the well was heavier than the last, the ground sucking at boots with silent insistence. The air pressed against the chest, tightening with every heartbeat. No sound of wind, no rustle of leaves. Only the soft pulse beneath the earth, a slow, deep thrum that matched the rhythm of something alive below. The well's edge shimmered faintly. Not water, not reflection. Something alive beneath the stone. A vibration traveled upward, shaking hands, knees, spine. The world around the village twisted. Roofs stretched, doors bent inward, walls leaned impossibly as though the village itself was breathing. Shadows deepened unnaturally, pooling beneath eaves and porches, growing thicker, more solid. The mist grew higher, coiling around legs like serpents. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to run. But the path was gone. The village had swallowed all exit. Only the well remained. Kneeling beside it, fingertips brushing the damp stone, the ground shifted. A low rumble began beneath the earth, rising into a deep, throbbing vibration. Something massive moved below. The mist trembled. Shapes flickered within it, faint outlines at first, then larger, stretching into figures too tall, too wrong. Eyes gleamed, countless, unblinking, watching from beneath the surface. The pulse accelerated, hammering into bone, chest, skull. The village seemed alive, bending, contracting, reshaping itself. Roofs warped downward like collapsing jaws. Doors swung open toward nothing. Shadows stretched and coiled, pressing inward. Then the well exhaled. The stone edge cracked. Fingers, thin, pale, impossibly long, erupted from within, clawing toward the surface. Shapes followed. Skeletal arms, heads, torsos, all reaching. Their faces were wrong. Hollow, twisted versions of everything familiar. Eyes too large, mouths stretched, limbs bent at unnatural angles. They did not speak. No sound emerged from them, yet the vibration pressed against the skull like a scream. The mist lifted, revealing more of them, shadows standing among the houses, half-formed, crawling, emerging from every corner, every crack, every window. Then the well exhaled. The stone edge cracked. Fingers, thin, pale, impossibly long, erupted from within, clawing toward the surface. Shapes followed. Skeletal arms, heads, torsos, all reaching. Their faces were wrong. Hollow, twisted versions of everything familiar. Eyes too large, mouths stretched, limbs bent at unnatural angles. They did not speak. No sound emerged from them, yet the vibration pressed against the skull like a scream. The mist lifted, revealing more of them, shadows standing among the houses, half-formed, crawling, emerging from every corner, every crack, every window. And then the will exhaled. The stone edge cracked. Fingers, thin, pale, impossibly long, erupted from within, clawing toward the surface. Shapes followed. Skeletal arms, heads, torsos, all reaching. Their faces were wrong.
hollowed, twisted versions of everything familiar. Eyes, too large, mouth stretched, limbs bent at unnatural angles. They did not speak. No sound emerged from them, yet the vibration pressed against the skull like a scream. The mist lifted, revealing more of them, shadows standing among the houses, half-formed, crawling, emerging from every corner, every crack, every window. And then from the center of the well a shape rose, massive, taller than any building, its skin slick and black as obsidian, pulsing with red veins that glowed faintly in the darkness. Its head lifted, its face, familiar, not human, yet wearing the protagonist's face. Identical down to the smallest scar, an expressionless stare. The pulse in the ground synchronized with the creature's breath, rattling every bone in the body. The shadows on the ground bowed, kneeling in silent worship. It moved, every step cracked the earth. The houses groaned as if acknowledging the weight. The mist curled higher, carrying the stench of cold soil, decay, and something older. The creature extended a hand. No warning, no hesitation. The world around collapsed inward, gravity itself bending toward the well. The shadows lunged, the ground split beneath, swallowing everything outside the immediate clearing. The village, the forest, the corridors collapsed into layers of nothing. Only the creature and the protagonist remained, trapped. Every attempt to step back failed. Every motion forward was swallowed. The pulse violently pulsed, spewing more of the shadowed forms. Their eyes gleamed in the white-hot mist. The air thickened, suffocating, compressing lungs. One final step. Fingers of the creature brushed the chest. The pulse shattered. Reality folded in like paper, compressing into a point of unbearable pressure. Pain, knowledge, understanding. The protagonist was no longer separate. The body, the mind, the soul merged, crushed, absorbed. A scream that existed only within shattered consciousness, echoed, once, infinitely. Then silence, white, endless, breathless. Time stopped. The corridor appeared, identical, perfect, endless. The well, the village, the forest, all gone. A single door in the distance, wooden, worn, waiting. The air hums, low, insistent. Shadows stir at the edges. The loop begins again. The cycle is eternal. There is no escape, no path forward, no retreat, only the corridor, the door and the pulse that cannot be silenced. And somewhere in the infinite white, the thought forms, unspoken. It is not the world that is trapped. It is you. Forever.